Okay, we're here with Judge Kimberly Esmond Adams, who sits on the bench in Fulton County Superior Court. And we're here today to talk about the Jury Amnesty Month in May. Fulton County, like a lot of counties around the country, has had a problem with getting jurors to appear when they receive summonses to report to jury duty. And Fulton County has devised this Amnesty Month in May to get people to come and serve jury duty. So we're here to talk with the judge about what's going on, why the county is doing this, and see what the penalties are for folks who don't participate. So, Judge, if you could explain to us what the amnesty program is.
Well, the amnesty program is actually a precursor to the measures that we will be forced to take if we don't begin to see an increase in the number of citizens who are responding to summonses they receive for service. We have experienced over the past several months an increasing number of jurors who simply are ignoring the summonses that they've received for jury service. As a result, the court recognized that we now have to begin to deal seriously with this issue so that we don't get to the point that it cripples our ability to carry out our jobs as mandated by the Constitution. Rather than immediately going into the process of conducting contempt hearings, we thought that it would be a good idea in our effort to educate citizens to have an amnesty month that allowed for citizens who've been summoned and perhaps put the summons on the refrigerator, forgot about it, and simply thought that because they forgot about it that they would not be able to come in and would just wait perhaps for the next time that they are summoned. But for them to come in and essentially reschedule their service without any penalty. We have provided a full month for that purpose before we actually begin the next step of this process, which will be serving citizens who still did not take advantage of Amnesty Month and have not honored summonses. They will be served with show cause orders and will be required to come to court and explain to a judge why they should not be held in contempt.
So, everyone knows that there's a backlog of cases in courts nationwide. Could you give us a sense of how much impact jury no-shows cause on cases and backlogs?
Well, we fortunately have been able to manage despite our significant no-show rate. In fact, right now we're hovering close to 50%. The way that this court has elected to deal with the issue so as not to stall our operations is essentially summon more jurors to ensure that we get a yield that will allow us to conduct the business of the court. That certainly is not the most efficient way to run a court and to operate this particular function. And we now recognize that we have got to take steps to address the issue. We are, and some people know, some people do not, but the Fulton Superior Court is the largest and busiest trial court in the state of Georgia. Mm-hmm. There are 20 judges who serve on this court. We hear all kinds of cases, from felony criminal matters to divorce and child custody cases to run-of-the-mill civil matters involving disputes between individuals and corporations, car accidents, medical malpractice actions, and the like. And because the Sixth Amendment to the Constitution guarantees the right to a jury trial, we have to be in a position to assure that. We are the guardians of the Constitution in that respect, mm-hmm. and have to make certain that we can conduct the business of the court. So fortunately, we have not experienced some of the challenges that could result from this high no-show rate. Rather, we've overcompensated by sending out more summonses than we should have to in order to ensure that we have a sufficient number of citizens who respond and are ready and able to serve.
So with a 50% no-show rate, does that mean people who live in Fulton County are more likely to get more jury summons service?
That's precisely what it means.
Okay.
That is you hit the nail on the head. And that is the other reason that we realize it's a problem that we have to deal with. Unfortunately, we have a smaller segment of the citizenry carrying the lion's share of the responsibility. Mm-hmm. And the way that I illustrate that is for many years, not within the last 4 to 5 years, but there used to be a 3-year grace period between your dates of service. Mm-hmm. So, for example, if you were summoned to serve, you came in, reported to the jury clerk's office. Even if you did not sit on a jury, that satisfies your obligation to serve as a juror. And there used to be a 3-year grace period. But now, because of the no-show rate and the issue that we've had, that period has been cut in half to 18 months.
Okay.
And at the rate that we are going, if we don't address this situation now, it's going to be reduced even farther. And it affects citizens who do comply and serve because they have to come much more often than they should. There are more than 1 million folks in the county, and we should be able to spread the responsibility around in such a way that it does not work an undue burden on a certain segment of the population. And that's what we're working very hard to accomplish.
What are the excuses that the court hears in terms of why people don't show up for jury duty?
Well, actually, because we have not had any formal proceedings to address this issue, we can speculate about what they might be, but I don't know that any of us have really had that information provided to us in a way that we would be able to assign those as actual reasons. Mm-hmm. I suspect, though, that one of the major reasons that folks don't show is because they know that when they don't show up in Fulton County, currently there is no consequence. And so if you know that nothing happens when you don't show, what is your incentive to do it? Mm-hmm. Certainly there are a number of citizens who honor their summonses, and we are grateful to those citizens who come and serve. I will tell you that I have had the pleasure of presiding over a number of trials, both civil and criminal, and I have been gratified by the level of service citizens in this county have provided in assisting the courts in meting out justice. But we have to make sure that we share the responsibility and that it's evenly spread. And that's what we don't have right now. So I think that that's probably one of the biggest reasons.
Okay. Who is automatically disqualified, or who are there groups of folks that don't have to serve jury?
That's a very good question. The law provides a limited number of legal excuses. If a person is 70 years of age or older and do not wish to serve, that person would be legally excused from jury service. Obviously, if a person is summoned and that person is no longer a resident of Fulton County, that person would be excused from service. Mm-hmm. If a person is the primary caregiver of children, a child or children under the age of 7 years, and they do not have a reasonable child care alternative. In other words, if they are homemakers and don't have neighbors or friends or family, then they would be excused. And there's a very, very small group of people that fall into that category, not very many people at all. If there is a person who is the primary teacher in a homeschool program, and again, that person has no reasonable alternative available, such as a substitute, that person would be excused. Okay. And then generally, if a person has a physical or mental impairment that would affect their ability to serve, the court would hear those reasons and make some determination about whether that person would fall into the category of legal excuse. Mm-hmm. that category is intended to capture. Those are legal reasons. There also are circumstances where judges will hear from citizens about situations that would fall into a hardship category, and judges have discretion to make decisions about whether they believe that the situation a particular juror might present is in fact a hardship of such a nature and intensity that would warrant excusal. And certainly there are occasions when judges excuse jurors, but there are a very limited number of legal reasons.
Now, I've served on jury duty myself, and I remember.
Wasn't so bad, was it?
No, I mean, but I've talked with friends, and it used to be that if you were in certain occupations, it was believed that you got an automatic out or excusal from jury duty, whether you were a police officer or a doctor or reporter. Just saying that was an automatic out, but it doesn't seem to be the case anymore.
No,
why is that?
It is not. Well, if you are a post-certified law enforcement officer, peace officer, there are certain instances where you will be excused from service. Mm-hmm. But generally other vocations, professions, avocations are not excused. Lawyers make decisions about jurors based on the profile of juror that they are looking for to hear a certain type of case. But I explain to doctors, I explain to other professionals, those jobs certainly are important, but the person who works at McDonald's or in a manufacturing job, or as a clerk at a convenience store, is also important to the court, and the work that they do is important to them. And generally, those people are the ones who would suffer more of a hardship from serving than professionals, your higher dollar professionals. And so many of those types of professions where there is this misnomer that those people are excused. I don't know where that came from. That may be based on personal experiences, but there's nothing in the law that compels the court to excuse doctors and reporters and folks who work in certain professions. The only exception is law enforcement.
Okay. Now, can you talk a little bit about the punishments in terms of folks who don't appear for jury duty?
Happily. I want to reiterate that the court has no interest in finding any of the citizens in this county in contempt. What we are seeking is to educate the citizens of this county and to provide an opportunity for folks to get their houses in order and to come down and reschedule their service. But if people do not honor the efforts that the court is making and continue to ignore our summonses, then the next step for us will be to begin show cause proceedings. And if a citizen is found in contempt of court for willfully ignoring a jury summons, that person could be fined up to $500 and jailed for a period not to exceed 20 days.
Now, this might be a cynical question, but if they're jailed as a result of having a record of some kind, does that automatically remove them from jury duty?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
There are people who have served time in jail for misdemeanor offenses, DUIs. There also are convicted felons. And the fact that you have been jailed does not necessarily mean that you are disqualified from service.
Okay.
If you are a convicted felon and your rights have not been restored, that is, you can't vote, then you would not be able to serve. But we certainly have circumstances where folks who've been convicted of crimes have served their time, paid their debt to society, and have had their rights restored, and they have an opportunity to serve on the jury.
Okay.
In fact, we had someone recently fall into that category, and he was actually selected by the prosecution and the defense to serve as a juror.
Okay. Well, thank you. Appreciate your time.
You're very welcome. And may I just reiterate, we really hope that citizens in Fulton County will take advantage of the amnesty program and come down. There's no judgment passed. We appreciate the fact that you're coming down. We will get your service rescheduled so that we don't have to haul you into court for a contempt hearing. We really, really would not like to have to proceed with those hearings, but we recognize that we have an obligation to the citizens of this county who honor their summonses and who come and faithfully perform their jury service. And so what we are seeking is compliance, not punishment.